Well. Today is the last day of this program, and it's the last day of the year, second day in the week. Can't change that.
I can't remember that. I just know it's the last day in the year. That's the most important thing at this point.
And you know, the fact that we're alive and we're well, in spite of all that has happened, it is something to celebrate.
It is. I think everybody, but especially every Nigerian should at this point celebrate yourself, celebrate God, celebrate your source. 366 days of ups and downs. I don't know if we had some middles in between, but certainly a lot of ups and downs, and you're able to smile on this final day. Then we should celebrate.
Oh man, the prices of whatever it is has increased. The price of maintaining your lifestyle has been what it is. Medical, health, education. What sector is it that's not been affected?
Or you've had to change your lifestyle.
Adjust to the current realities.
Exactly.
As they say, cutting your cloth according to the, what was it? Cutting your cloth according to the cloth.
At this point. But it's been actually really pleasant. I know the interesting thing is when you look really close, you would see the good, you would see the bad, you would see the wins, you would see the losses, and you would know that you can be hopeful for a better year ahead in a couple of hours. So
in no distant time from now, we'll be looking at a number of other issues. As promised yesterday, we would like to begin with the areas in which lives have been affected at different parts of our country, and looking at the area of poverty reduction, and so many other things along that line. Of course, we've talked about a number of things.
Ayo is also a major one we'll be looking at today. We've had a lot of, this year we had the emergence of Lakurua. I don't know if that's...
Lakurawa.
We weren't done with Boko Haram, IPOB, kidnapping. And, we had that staggering figure, 2.2 billion spent on ransom. And then after that, the NBS website crashed. So we don't know what to make of that figure. But, having that from an official source actually does bring something. And the Stampede is a major one also. When we saw the one in Ibadan, just before we could commiserate with that loss, then we saw from our own Federal Capital Territory, and then we had to go to Anambra. And a lot of people say this is because of poverty. Others say it's organizational skills needed in the process, of sharing this relief materials. And,
one thing that I always say is people live within the federal government of Nigeria, but they live in states. However,
and in
local communities. Yeah. But at the end of the day, whenever anyone is going to talk, the first port of call is the federal government. What is the federal government doing about this? So before let's jump into this conversation this evening with the focus on the humanitarian situation in Nigeria, reflections and projections, an overview of key issues and agenda for the year ahead. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction joins us in our Abuja studio, Professor Nentawe Goshwe Yilwata. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Nigerians.
Let me begin with from the soft side, sir. How do you feel when you see the people that you have to be concerned about in the different parts of the country, the people in whose lives you have to intervene? How does it feel for you, first of all?
There's this emotional attachment anytime you look at the tasks before me. The fact that this is a difficult time for everybody globally. We have so many global challenges, from economic challenges, security challenges, to also climate change that has affected and caused hard hardship in so many parts of the world, and even Nigeria especially. Flooding, climate change affecting crops and farming outputs. So you have so much tasks before you that you have to achieve. And I have to work with not just my ministry alone, other ministries that are involved in intervening in poverty issues. I'll give an example. Ministry of Agri is involved in some intervention to ensure that we provide food security for the people who are at the lower end. Just last month and part of this month also, they've shared material for dry season farming to see if we could meet up with the food security intervention at the lower ebb of the this thing. And I know just 2 weeks ago they were in my state, in Plateau State, and some few states to share, in the north especially, where dry season is prominent, to share materials, farm inputs for farmers, to dry season farmers, in critical food that we, stable food that we require in Nigeria. And not just that alone, Ministry of Labor through NDE are creating new set of jobs of over 90,000 against next year. They set a portal already for that purpose, and they and several other sectors that are working on poverty reduction program, not just my own ministry alone. So when you look up, it's not just me alone, but the president has directed that almost all ministries should work where there are opportunities of creating jobs, where there are opportunities of intervening to reduce the pain on Nigerians. We should go ahead and ensure that we work on that. And I'm just midwiving the other ministers and other ministries in terms of poverty reduction, coordinating activities to ensure that we meet those targets that the president has given us.
Honorable Minister, yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday, we were talking about the flooding in different parts of the country and the effect it had on food security and the impact it had on increasing poverty figures, affecting humanitarian lives and all of that. It raised a question, just as I asked yesterday from one of our guests, the collaboration between ministries, because flooding is an environmental affair, but it directly affects humanitarian affairs, and it directly results in poverty when people's livelihoods are washed away. And we know that generally, the Ministry of the Environment, one ministry, department or agency or the other, from that ministry would send out word to the different state governments and say, look, this is going to happen here, that is going to happen there. So it just begs the question whether or not there is significant collaboration between your ministry and the Ministry of the Environment, and perhaps even the related agencies under that ministry, to help ensure that poverty figures are not as bad as they are now.
Very well. I can give you the provided data of all the areas that were affected by flood to my ministry, and we're working on those data. Using those data, we're intervening in different ways. On the 8th of January, that's in 8 days to come, we will be in Bauchi. We'll work in collaboration with Red Cross and ECOWAS to provide relief materials for all the people that were affected by the flooding in Bauchi. We're doing the same thing in Borno, and we're doing the same thing in some other parts of the country also. It's a collaboration between my ministry, ECOWAS, and Red Cross. In the same manner also, we're working with the same Ministry of Environment, NEMA. We're also intervening in Bayelsa State where there's no flood took place. What we're doing there, in most of this, we're working on long-term solution. That's durable solution for the people who are affected. Not just giving them relief material alone, but in Bayelsa, we're providing solar fridges for women so that they can store catches from their fishes for long-term solution for them who are affected. We're providing boats, fishing boats. We're providing fishing nets for those communities that were affected also in the first quarter of next year. Already, the president has given us go ahead to do that, and already most of the procurement are in the process. And once that is done, we'll deliver it to Bayelsa State. In Benue State, we're doing something different. We're working with people affected, both the IDPs and people affected by the flooding, to ensure that they do dry season farming. So we're working with NALDA so they can cultivate 1,000 hectares of land for people who are affected for dry season farming in rice. And we're also doing the same thing in cassava for dry season farming in Benue State. In Nasarawa State, we're doing rice and vegetable. In Plateau State, we're doing potato and vegetable. In Borno, we're doing corn. And in different states, we're doing, in Kebbi, we're doing rice also, and Sokoto. So different states, we're taking different steps based on the crops that are available to them. And we discovered that most were affected by this flooding, especially rural communities, are farmers. That's why we're taking agriculture as the mainstay of our intervention in most communities, so that we ensure that the people who are affected are taken care of. When this not just by word of mouth alone. I've been to Borno State to do that. I've surveyed Borno State. We surveyed several states. My Minister of State was in Nasarawa State. He was also in Plateau State. I was in Benue State. So we're moving around the state to ensure that we do a thorough data analysis of what's happening there, and we've gathered enough information from what we've done. So we're intervening in the first quarter in those communities, especially to respond in dry season farming, so that we can meet their food needs. But we're not meeting their food need also. We're also off-taking what they'll produce. 30% will go to them as food component, 70% will buy it off and keep in strategic reserve and serve those communities.
My sincere apologies, Honorable Minister, for butting in, if you can hear me. The question that I'm asking is about that collaboration between your ministry and the Ministry of the Environment, which probably would have helped to stave off the impact of the flooding. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the impact of any form of collaboration. At the point when you were, as soon as you were sworn in, you called for collaboration. You want to tell us how far that has been, with who and with who in particular? Because one would expect, for instance, that in the ministry, in these different state governments, where people's lives are directly affected by the things that will come to you, I'm just wondering how that collaboration has worked or is working, what the challenges are, in what areas can Nigerians also help to partner with you so that at least we'll be proud, you will be proud that whatever it is that you're doing is hitting target.
Okay, the first step that we needed to take was to set up a humanitarian council where we can disseminate information that from the federal to state to local government, and have representation from the local government to state into the council, and the partnership that we're going to have with other ministries that are also involved in humanitarian activities, and international partners that are also involved in humanitarian activities. We feel that by getting a humanitarian council, it will help on decision making, in also intervening and quick response time that we're going to have in response to issues that have to do with the state, the local government, and also the national level. So that we intend to form in the first quarter of next year as our pivotal decision. But for now, we're working with the state governors, we're working with local governments, we're working also with our partners. Just like I told you, that in Bauchi, we're working with the state governor, we're working with ECOWAS, we're working with Red Cross to ensure we intervene in those places. In Borno State, we're working with the state governor. He has given us about 10,000 hectares of land in Borno State. Different governments have given us, collaboration to ensure that we provide those interventions. But most importantly, we agreed also that all the ministries that need to give us information, especially the data that has to do with rainfall, that has to do with weather, condition of the communities. So an early warning system also will help us. So the NEMA with our ministry are designing an early warning system that can also midwife between us, the state, and other and the state government to ensure that we have early response and also early intervention in most times. And also the early warning can also help us to move people out. I was giving an example with one of the communities that we met, and they told us that, when they discovered there was flooding every year, an NGO came into that community and provided an early warning system for them. They just built a gauge, and they asked somebody to be at the gauge and provide early warning. And from that time, over 10 years now, that community has never been affected by any flooding. And before any flood comes, people will actually be rescued and they will escape. So they've lost no life, they've lost no property for over 10 years after that early warning system was given to the community. And these are things that we must do, not just in a community alone, but across the country, making sure that early warning systems are effective from the state governments, the local government, and to all of us who are involved in humanitarian activities.
All right, Honorable Minister, I must say that you do have a whole lot of work to do. I guess that position has always been a sensitive one. So you're talking about your collaboration with state governments and all of that. But let's just look at some data at the issue of poverty, especially the multidimensional poverty index. So we see that when you look at from the World Bank, to all others, the World Bank is saying that the level of poverty as for this year increased to 38.8% in this year. And then there's the issue of low unemployment rate in the country, which is also feeding into that. Low consumer spending, purchasing power, minimum wage, all of this, of course, connects to the level of poverty in the state. And when you look at indicators, you have education, living standards, infrastructure, and all that. So when we talk about collaboration and the issue of humanitarian affairs, Honorable Minister, it does seem that you have a whole lot of work. Look at the numbers right there, poverty data for 2024, about 43% of Nigerians. I mean, millions of Nigerians alone this year. So while we look at the policies from the government, it is now your responsibility to handle the consequences of it. So how do you now merge issues of infrastructure, education, not just with the state, with the different ministries, to ensure that it really gets down? And as some people are saying, it's even more an issue of perception, you know, for you to be able to handle this. So it's not just talking to the state governors and all of that. It's also dealing with the perception of the people, the infrastructure that they have to handle, their education, primary health care, and all of that.
Now, this where the discussion about the multidimensional poverty comes in. If you recall what we have as social register, the social register, normally you go to communities, you capture people, you meet the community, you divide the community into the women, the youths, and the elders. And they all now would define what poverty is, and they would discuss and agree on people who are poor in the community. They will arrange the people who are poor from the poorest to the least poorest. Then you now use that to now gather and aggregate what you call the social register. But most importantly, you now go for revalidation of those data. In the revalidation, that's when you will now assess the multidimensional poverty of the individuals that have been captured. Now, that data is the most important data as far as we are concerned in the ministry, because it assesses the level of education in the community, it assesses water and sanitation, it assesses general infrastructure, it assesses health, it assesses several data. And now it is this data that you normally use also to provide to other ministries that will help them even for their budgeting and planning. But most importantly, that's why I'm talking about the state governments and local government, because they should be the biggest beneficiary of this register. And that's why we're talking about working on the council, so that we can give this data to the state governments and the state government and local government also, so that it can help in planning primary health care. Because federal government doesn't work on primary health care. It is the state government and local government that work on primary health care. The federal government doesn't work on primary education and secondary education. It is the state government and primary that work on these issues. So a lot of these issues that has to do with multidimensional poverty, they have to do with state governments. And we must provide this data to the state government so the state government can work on this to improve on this multidimensional poverty. So when you discuss multidimensional poverty, most of the factors from water and sanitation to education, to primary health, to most of these issues that we're discussing, they're actually the state and local government issues. And
so
that's
Honorable
why we provide
Minister,
this data to the...
Honorable Minister,
yes.
So that's why I was talking of perception. All of this should be based on data, which you say you gather and share, with the relevant levels of government. Now, there's the perception that those who make it to the register are the politically correct or connected individuals, and not those who need it. So how do we now get the right data that would guide us on taking the right decision and making impact?
Now, I think maybe that's the perception that you are feeling. Because
I don't think it's just the minister.
Not just by the minister alone. Now, yes, because let me just put it to your record also. Because this data was actually made by the World Bank and other international partners that work with us and CSOs who were involved in it. So it wasn't a minister that even developed the register, but it was a congregation of CSO, NGOs, the World Bank, and the ministry leading the pattern to ensure that this is done. So it was a register not developed by a political party or a government or a state government or federal government. And in all these things, there was a collaboration between the state government, the local government, and the federal government in this activity, apart from the international community who were involved. So this was validated by international communities, not just by individuals alone. But sorry to say it, the people who are involved in this poverty, who are at this lower end, they are not on social media. They are not on the internet. They are not on TV. They are not even, they're even unbanked. So these people don't have a voice. Assuming they have a voice now, I'm sure they would have been talking on our behalf. Unfortunately, they don't have a voice. So that's the reason why most people who have the voice, who are not actually most people who have phones, who are on social media, who are on the TV and radio, unfortunately, they are not part of the social register because for now, we are dealing with the poorest of the poor in the society, who are unbanked, who are on social media, who don't have access to internet. And that's the reason why most people have this perception that because their neighbor, who may have the wherewithal, is not on the social register, then they conclude that the social register is meant for the richest, or is meant for the rich.
All right, Honorable Minister. So we believe you. It's because those who are on the social media are not on any of this platform. That's why they are not talking. But I mean, we've seen the Stampedes. We're getting into the new year in a couple of hours. We know that poverty cannot automatically be erased. What's the plan from the ministry? People have good hearts. They want to give out to some communities and all of that. What should be a system to avoid this kind of stampede we've seen this year? Should they contact the police? Should they reach out to the ministry? Should they go to the local government to make it more organized? Because at the end of the day, I did see some lawyers asking the federal government to compensate families that recorded losses. Can we have a coordinated system to avoid stampede in the future?
We in the ministry, we have a protocol for distributing relief materials in any community. And that's the reason why we distribute relief materials more than any other individual in this country. And we've never witnessed a stampede. We also intervene even among the most critical people, the displaced people, the people who are at the ITP camps, who have the least, they are even under more pressure because they don't have access to accommodation, they have no shelter, they have no food, and yet we distribute food within those communities, and we've never had any stampede. And that tells you that actually organization is the major problem we have when it comes to distribution of relief materials for the people. Let me put it this way. Stampede has taken place in more developed countries than Nigeria. If you recall the Hurricane Katrina in US, when they had food distribution because of poor organization, they had stampede. They also the school food distribution and street food distribution in US, in Texas, the same thing happened. So it has happened in several other countries also, more developed than Nigeria, where you have poor organization and then people have ended up being stampede in those programs. So my advice to anybody who is organizing an intervention, if you don't have the wherewithal, the manpower to do it, you can either seek the ministry's help, and we can also help you. And most important, even we as a ministry, because we don't have enough manpower, sometimes we even seek the help of other agencies. For example, we're working with Red Cross in Bauchi because we discovered we don't have enough manpower to run that distribution in Bauchi State. So we opted to use Red Cross to do the procurement and do distribution on our behalf. We also go there to just help give them support. But we provide the data to them, but they do the distribution. And that's what you should do. And then secondly, and most importantly, in most areas that we have intervention, you have stampede, most times there's no beneficiary list. You can't just go out on the street and you say that call for food is ready for everybody. Of course, you expect a stampede. In Abuja, you have like over 2 million people in Abuja. And then you go out and say that people should come. There's rice in a building. And you expect maybe nothing less than about 3 to 4 or 5,000 people will come and gather in that place. Not even more than 10,000 people will gather in that, in that place. You can't manage the crowd. You may not have the security. You may not have the manpower. You may not have the strategy. Even the vulnerability test of the venue has been done. So these are some of the risk factors that we don't actually assess before we undertake most of these intervention by groups or individuals.
Prof, the issues we are talking about now are the more recent ones, and it's because of things that we are seeing now, and of course people just want to intervene. But then there is, in terms of the ministry, administering the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, you would agree that there has been issues over the past few months, about a year ago now. I think it was the EFCC that was talking about some 3 billion naira or so that was missing in the ministry. And then next thing we heard, in January, that the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs was suspended by the president. Next thing we were hearing figures of 585 million naira, and then some other figure, 37 billion naira, uncovered by the EFCC and all those things. Since your advent, I don't know if you've been able to do anything about it, are there gaps that you have noticed? Because there are some in the public who believe that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction was created as opportunity for some people to steal money. We are not seeing any minister going around dishing money to people the way it was being done in recent history. So are there gaps that you have seen? In what are those issues done and over with? Should we just forget that those things didn't happen? The EFCC didn't uncover any money? What exactly has happened? Because those monies were supposed to be about the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, aren't they?
For the investigation, it's not under my purview to discuss investigation by the security agencies or the anti-graft agencies. I think that was that was directed by Mr. President, and the investigation is still ongoing. But let me just come back to my ministry, what we're working on. When we came in, Mr. President gave a specific directive. One, ensure transparency in distribution of intervention, especially the conditional cash transfer to the people. And that's where the issue of social register came in. Number two, we should make sure that anybody we're giving money to, it must have digital identity, and it must be by bank transfer, no fiscal cash distribution to people, which will abided by all this. Now, that's where we are working on now. First, we have about 90 million households that are registered on our register. One household, we assume, has an average of about 5 people per household. So having 90 million people on the social register simply means that we have over 90 million people that are on our social register. But these 90 million household leaders are not all of them are captured. Only about 2.4 million of these 90 million people are captured. So we need to work. To ensure that we bring the remaining 70 million into the social register, and that's what we're working on now, to ensure that we capture all of them. And we're working with NIMC because it's easier for us to use, to provide NIN than to provide BVN from the bank accounts. So it's easier for us to use NIMC. You go to the rural community, we can capture the NIN of the unbanked people and then bring it to the banking sector by either harvesting their bank accounts if they have it, or creating an e-wallet for them if they don't have a bank account. And the president has given a directive that we should capture 15 million people in the next 6 months. And that's the target we're working on now to ensure that we get that done. And we're doing across all the states and want to ensure that we capture people who are already there before on the social register and then expand as much as possible after we provided those 15 million people. And those people also, we should provide that intervention of 75,000 naira per annum to them, 25,000 in 3 tranches to these 50 million people that we are all capturing as the first stopgap for them while we work on durable solution for them in the future.
We'll come back to the poverty reduction strategies that you're talking about, but just a quick one on the previous issue. When will Nigerians hear about the conclusion of these investigations? Because I'm pretty sure you know that it's only a matter of time. The issues are going to arise again, and then the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry will come under fire again. So how soon should Nigerians look out for some kind of conclusion to that investigation that you talked about?
I may not be the person to draw a conclusion because I'm not heading the anti-graft agencies. So I think that question may be directed to the anti-graft agencies than myself. But I think most importantly, we've learned lessons from all the mistakes of the past. We're making corrections, and that's why we're fixing the corrections now.
The reason I asked the question, my apologies. My apologies, Honorable Minister. The reason I asked the question is because you've always talked about trust. And if the information is inadequate, people will fill in the gaps. So if you don't have information for people about something that concerns your ministry, it's always assets and liabilities for anyone who takes office. So that's the reason I'm asking the question. So in order to instill trust, that's the question.
Let's be frank with ourselves. Yes, let's be frank with ourselves. Just like a case in court, I cannot go and determine the case that outside my purview. I'm not the person investigating. I can't investigate my ministry. I can't be the person charged with investigating my ministry. I can't make pronouncement on the issues of that are under investigation. And it's not my ministry. It's not my agency that's investigating my ministry. So I think it is the agency investigating that will make a statement on what they're investigating.
Okay.
But most important, like I said, every issue that was raised, if you recall, Mr. President set up a committee to oversee and also make recommendation before I came in. And all the recommendations were made, were all taken, I taking care of all of them. Like I said, no fiscal cash distribution. From that time till date, I'm sure you've not seen anybody distributing cash anywhere by our ministry. 2, no transfer without bank accounts or digital identity. And from that time till date, and that's the reason why we couldn't transfer much. Only 1.4 million that had digital identity that we could transfer to them. And the reason is because we don't have people that have digital identity among the social register. Most of them don't have it. And that's what we're doing right now with NIMSI. So every step and every recommendation they make to us, we're doing it. And then the third one is that work on durable solution. Don't go with only these stopgap solutions. And we're working on that also. By this January, the first quarter of next year, we're training people across the country in automobile, renewable energy, in agriculture. We're camping them for 1 year. We're giving them starter pack. We're monitoring them. We're linking all of them to the market space and to the private sector to ensure that they become productive. And that's one step we're taking for the youths. We're also working with the IDPs to ensure that we have durable solutions to them. We're farming for them using NALDA to ensure that they have farms and also they have crops, and we provide all the inputs for them. They provide the labor. We offtake from them 70%, the whole 30% are food component, and they have both cash and food for their sustainability. While they interact with the community and they socialize the community, we also support the community in different forms. So all these are part of our durable solution. Then the president also gave us an opportunity to also provide soft loan, the money market, the trader market, and also the farmer market, farmer money. These are also loan schemes, not free money. Loan scheme that will be given to traders, will be given to market women and petty traders, artisans, and also the farmer money to give to low-end farmers through cooperative and market associations so that they can also build the lower ebb of the economy also and can create more jobs at that lower level. So these are things that we're taking next year, and we're taking them very seriously. We've worked on them, and we're working with not just by us alone, we're working with international partners. We're doing also validation meeting with all the international partners to ensure that we have a robust discussion on it and have a robust solution also going forward on that.
All right, Honorable Minister, so as we wind down now, I mean, you have so many programs you have mentioned that's being worked on, but we'd like to know your projection. We're getting into 2025. You have all of these programs. We've seen the numbers from the World Bank and other international bodies whom you say you work with. What is the projection, say by this time next year? Would we have reduced poverty, the people in the poverty level, to a certain level? What's the projection? What's the plan? Because I guess this is going to guide, your moves and your programs.
On my ministry, the president directed me to create 2 million jobs. So we're working on ensuring that we have 2 million jobs at the end of December. We created 2 million jobs. My ministry also, to ensure that we settled the IDPs. Most of the IDPs moved from the camps to their homes or settled within the communities, and also give them durable solution, that permanent solution to their lifestyle. If they're into farming, take them back to their farms. If they're into trading, take them back to trading. If they're into fishing, take them into fishing. So part of my job to ensure that that is done also. Then thirdly, part of my intervention also, part of my work plan also is that those people who are being given those stipends of 75,000 naira per annum, that we should find a way of migrating them into more sustainable lifestyle and also the economic empowerment of these people. And that's why we have this market money, federal money.
Honorable
money.
Minister, just one second. The question, if you can hear me, sir, the question she asked is, what's the percentage that you are looking to do? She started by giving us percentages of the poverty figures that we have now based on NBS figures and from the MPI and other data like that. What percentage are you looking at cutting down in the year ahead?
The figures cannot just be generated by me alone. Reason because
there is no specific projection. No specific data projection that, we want to do, say, 5% or 10% reduction by next year. That's the question.
No, each ministry has their own targets. Like my target is to create 2 million jobs. We have NDA creating jobs also. We have different sectors creating jobs. It's when you aggregate all these factors that you now take the overall percentage of a country. You don't use my ministry alone to make a projection of the poverty reduction in the country.
All right.
The poverty reduction goes beyond just my ministry alone.
All right, obviously, Honorable Minister, you need to collaborate with health, education, infrastructure, and even agriculture. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you so much.
Spending this time with us. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Nantawe Yilwatda. And we wish you a Happy New Year. Let's be the first to wish you a Happy New Year. It's a couple of hours away.
Also, I wish you Happy New Year. All Nigerians, I wish you Happy New Year.
All right, thank you so much.